All right, cheers and salutations, everyone. We are just done wrapping up the DNC convention here in Chicago. And the thing is, folks, we here at Hardlands Media ran into a lot of people, fans of the show, and people who are also running for office. And of course, none of them were Democrats because no Democratic politician is going to walk amongst a crowd of people and protesters for these last 4 days. But there were candidates who were running, most notably those in the Green Party. So, returning back to our show, to give us an update in regards to her campaign race. Please, for our viewers and subscribers, can you please introduce yourself and tell us what campaign you're running in, your name, everything else, because it's been a while since we've had you on.
Yeah, since March. Hey everyone, my name is Chibu Asonye. I'm running for Congress for Illinois District 13. It's central to downstate Illinois, Springfield, Champaign to Edwardsville, if you all know that area. And now I'm going to be a write-in because I got kicked off the ballot. Technically, today is the day I'm going to get kicked off the ballot. Actually,
Okay. Oh,
they
wow.
certified the elections today. Yep.
Okay, and so when I clip this video will probably be coming out tomorrow on Saturday. So today's Friday, August 23rd. So for all you who want to know a little bit of a bigger picture, because Giovanni, I want you to get a chance to explain a little bit more about what exactly happened. Illinois is extremely draconian when it comes down to third parties and independents. I think New York is a good runner-up. I like to think we're number one, but hey, New York has surprised me in regards to how the DNC controls local, state, and federal politics. So third parties have to get not just thousands of signatures, but tens of thousands of signatures. I've seen the Libertarians and Greens throughout the numerous presidential and midterm election cycles go through legal loopholes and climb mountains, legal mountains, just so they could at least get on the ballot. Debate stage is a whole other story altogether. So for our viewers, can you at least start from the beginning, the process? Because initially you were getting signatures. There was a lot of turnout for you and the Greens, especially as you were reaching out to potential voters. How did this all start to where you were going to be kicked off the ballot? Because I keep telling my audience that we are very draconian, or at least Illinois, the Illinois government is very draconian towards Greens, Libertarians, and Independents. So I want to give the floor to you for you at least to explain the situation.
Yes. I will say I feel vindicated because talking with you at the beginning of my campaign and the reminder of like it's meant to be difficult, I'm really happy that I am sticking through this and I'm not giving up and I'm not going to leave anytime soon. So, Illinois, and to all you fun folks, for Congress in my district, I need to get 12,710 verified registered voters, physical signatures, in person, witnessed by someone, and then that sheet of paper has to get notarized by a notary, and that notary has to keep the record for at least a year and a half, just in case something happens. So I need that many signatures because what's happening is I'm being challenged. So a Democrat loyalist who has donated to my to I guess the current incumbent, who's a Democrat, she without even looking at the number of signatures or even downloading it, they challenged the last day possible. They challenged saying, hey, we don't think that her signatures are enough, and as a result, she can't, like, there's no point even looking at her. And
Wow.
yeah, it's annoying and it's frustrating. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I didn't mean to cut you off here, but look, what I say to anyone who's running as a third party candidate, you had to get 12,700 signatures, correct? That's a number you said.
Yes.
What I would say to anyone else, and I think if in case you, no matter how this election does turn out, should you win through write-in, which is fantastic, or if you have to choose to run again, I would say to anyone, Libertarian or Green or Independent, especially if you're in Illinois, triple that number of signatures. Get as many signatures as you can to secure ballot access, because the Illinois Democratic machine, as we've covered since 2017 here at Hardlands Media on radio, television, and YouTube, they will, if a name is spelled wrong, an I is not dotted, a T is not crossed, a number is off, they will throw out that name. And that's how tough they are. Now, as for Democrats and Republicans, they don't deal with that. So before I cut you off, I think there was a few more things you wanted added in there. So please take it away.
Yeah, and you make a good point. I was told by the Illinois Green Party that I needed to get 20,000, and the presidential candidate needs to get 25,000, which tells you just how like big these numbers are. I'm not in Chicago. Okay. I'm in Illinois, but I'm not in Chicago. My district, to imagine 50,000 people in my towns is ridiculous and honestly unbelievable. From the top of my district down to the bottom of my district to East St. Louis, it's a 3.5-hour drive. And these are small farming rural towns. These are towns that have been disinvested and are like really spread out. So honestly, there aren't even that many people that I would argue in my particular community, because we're not in Chicago with thousands of millions of people. We're in my like Urbana has 40,000 people in general, right? Those all people aren't registered to vote. All those people are even legible to vote, and they may not vote. And so it's so frustrating to think of my huge district and the number that I have to get. And it's also college students who are in that space. So many people in my district just aren't going to be allowed to write them in or to sign for me. And then the other part is the Democrats. So we're in Illinois. It's a Democrat stronghold. My district is D4. If you're a Democrat and you sign my signature, they will come after you personally. And they will if they try to like sign for me, they'll cross that out.
Wow.
Yep. So the other hard thing is I have a lot of people, like there are a lot of people in my community who support me. Democrats, Republicans, Greens, Independents, people who haven't voted for years are like, I will sign this for you and I will help you out and I will do it. But if they voted in the primary, they were strongly encouraged not to petition for me.
Wow. So in Illinois, and I've heard this story from libertarians and other previous Green Party candidates. And again, you are running with the Green Party. I have some people asking in live stream comment section, like, what do you? And we will get to your policies too, because unlike Kamala Harris's campaign website, you actually do have policies. So that's wow, controversial statement, having some policies. But I want to focus a little bit more on this because I keep on drilling home to people like how bad it is for independents, and it is an uphill fight. So in regards towards the DNC, or at least the Democratic Party, going after voters who would want to support you, has there been any kind of comments from them in regards to what the DNC has been saying to them? Because that's almost, it is a form of intimidation towards what a sovereign citizen would choose to do with their vote. Because at the end of the day, my vote, your vote, my audience vote belongs to us, and however we choose to use it is our decision, or our decision alone. I mean, that's the whole idea of a democracy, of a republic. Unless I'm wrong, and we're just supposed to follow orders.
Okay. So actually, it's from lived experience. Everyone who's helping me is older, have been in volunteering politically in my community for at least a couple of years now. And from lived experience, they know that that page will get written off. From written experience, and having and they're currently Democrats, still voting Democrat, but they are also involved with nonpartisan things. And so that's actually in nonpartisan areas, they'll say, or they'll share that. And yes, I definitely think it's intimidation. I definitely think it's meant to dissuade people from going third party and to just encourage you to be a Democrat or be within a two-party system. But yep, so it's lived experience. These are organizers who've been organizing for years in the community. These are people from all across the district who say, whether they're in St. Louis area or Springfield area, if you are a Democrat and you want to petition, it will. Previously, they have been knocked off, and behind closed doors, they tell you it's just not worth it. Just encourage that person to be a Democrat.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, it is rather it's unforgivable what happens here in Illinois towards third parties. But at least you were able to get into write-in. So how were you able to secure the write-in process? Because that is something I think a lot of third parties will have to rely on, and it won't just only be the presidential candidates. It'll also probably be every other candidates running for office, not only here in Illinois, but I think it's overall with the warpath that we're seeing towards third parties and independents. I've never seen it this bad. So how did you secure at least the ability to get in for a write-in?
Yes. In Illinois, to become a write-in for Congress, which is mine, I have to go to each individual county in person and submit to them a physical first like edition copy of me just saying like I want to. So you're declaring your intent to be a write-in. It's just a sheet of paper and you sign it and you write down like the information, and then but you have to go physically to each county, and mine had 7 counties.
Wow.
And so I said, yeah, and there's no public transport between any of those counties, I would like to point out. So I drove for 2 days to each county, talking with them and also ensuring, because my name's not difficult, but it's Chibu, Asonye, right? And I, because of other people who've told me, like, if they don't spell your name properly, it'll get knocked out. I stated in each one of the places, like, my name is Chibu, it's Nigerian American, like, any version of this needs to be allowed. So how do I make sure that any version of that is allowed? And some of them were helpful. Some of them were just like, okay. But yeah, it was detailed. If they couldn't read it, they had me rewrite some of it. And I was like, does this count if it's still notarized? Yes, it does. But yeah, so I had to get 7 sheets of paper and send it all in and drive to each county, because the president's also gonna have to do that. And Illinois has like 108 counties.
Wow. Well, I keep on saying that it's bad, but folks, listen, if you live in the Illinois 13th district, Chibu, please support independents, break away from Democrats and Republicans. And now for some fun stuff, because people are asking, okay, just to be clear, because for people who are just coming in, you're running in the Illinois Green Party, correct?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. We said that in the beginning, but in case people are just coming in for the live stream chat. Now, let's talk about policies, because, hey, you got a couple of policies, and plus you mentioned that your district is a farming district. So what is impacting the locals, at least, or your potential constituents, should you win your election? But even then, what are some of the issues impacting some of the local farming communities in that part of Illinois? Because when you think of Illinois, you just only think of Chicago, but Chicago doesn't control the whole state. Well,
facts. Facts. I would argue that across the political spectrum, climate change, in fact, where it will impact farming and what that means for for crops in 10, 15 years, those are conversations that I'm having. There's not currently much of an incentive, at least in Illinois, on the farm speak, where they want to like do no-till farming, where they want to do regenerative farming. They think that these are like some high-minded ideas that haven't been able to really be translated into something that's more practical. But part of that issue is the big farm, like big agricultural places, are putting pressure on the federal government and the local government to keep those current incentives where they are, rather than trying to move to sustainable farming. It takes more money, it takes more grants. And so that's something that's been frustrating to a lot of my community, where they want to shift towards organic farming. They want to go from farming soybeans and corn and to just shifting it a little bit to more variety of crops. But the way farming happens in Illinois, even though we have like a lot of corn where we're from, that's not corn that you eat. That's corn that you turn into like ethanol. Okay. And so the question is, how do we shift to, we want to grow food, and the importance of Illinois ethanol and growing corn and stuff like that. So that's a conversation that's been happening. And climate change is driving that, since again, we grow food and we grow, but we're not dairy. And so that's something that's been coming up of what does our future look like if we stay on this path, and how do we keep the economy that we have whilst building a sustainable economy, essentially.
So basically, a lot of the farmers in that area are concerned about overall what crops to grow, sustainability, and it sounds as if they're not being represented by at least their, I guess, uh, Illinois Congressional 13th District representative. So who is the district representative? I think right now your race is currently up in the air because there was also a Democratic primary. Could you elaborate on overall how the people of your district have been represented by at least the incumbent or former incumbent?
The incumbent is named Nikki Bazinski,
Mhm.
and she is a moderate, and our community needs a fighter and wants someone who's more active rather than complacent. Um, Outside of like Springfield, she's not really representing the interests of anyone else in our community. Uh, Springfield really wants to stay in the good graces, I would say, of the Washington D.C. and of Chicago. And so if we think about like the farm bill, we would
Mm.
want to see grants and tax credits to small farmers who are contributing, farmers where we can eat their food. But instead, a lot of the bill has nothing to do with small farming, has nothing to do with even Black farmers in Illinois, and we're not being represented by this person who really just does whatever the Democratic Party wants. She's just a placeholder. She votes 90% of the time along with the Democrats
Mhm.
and isn't advocating for the smaller details that actually matter to us.
Mhm. Okay. Then that makes again kind of explains overall the sad history of Illinois. If anyone doesn't get a chance to read it, please read Tom Tresser's book Chicago's Not Broke, and also read the book American Pharaoh, because it kind of goes into detail about overall Illinois. Yes, those two books focus on Chicago, but without Chicago, Illinois would not be infamous without the DNC or the Chicago Democratic machine. But that's a story for another day. So let's talk more about policy platforms. I know, controversial statement, because in comparison to Kamala Harris, you at least have policies. So you talk about election reform, and since you went to detail about overall what you had to face, because now you're a write-in candidate, can you elaborate a little bit on election reform? Because I'm curious about that.
Yes. In Illinois, a lot of people don't vote,
Mhm.
even though they are registered.
Right.
They don't vote because they believe and they have seen time and time again that regardless of who they vote for, none of the promises that have been made like end up being articulated and materialized. I want election reform because it's so difficult for a third party. It's difficult for anyone who is in any version of dissent of the current status quo to get on the ballot, to be heard, and to be known. I want to point out that Illinois State Board of Elections puts out an internet guidebook. And
Mhm.
even though I'm a write-in candidate that's been confirmed by each of my districts, I will not be in that voter book, the
Mm.
statewide voter book, which means Dr. Jill Stein will not be in that voter book,
Does
which
that go
means that
for all third parties and independents? Ay, ay,
yes,
ay.
if you get kicked off the ballot and you end up being a write-in, you will not be on in any way, shape, or form the internet guidebook for all of Illinois.
Mm. Okay. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Continue, please.
Well, that has to change. And so
Mhm.
election reform means implementing ranked choice voting, which is you're able to literally just rank who you may want to vote for. And in Illinois, you don't have to vote for everyone or anyone. You can just say, I'm not going to vote for that person and let it go. And I'm like, so that's great. I want also to incentivize people to either run, like encourage debates, which is part of why I like ranked choice voting. I want to change how we actually like pay for elections or pay for like petitioning.
Mhm.
If the Illinois Green Party hadn't offered to help with paid petitioning, all of my volunteers, like half of my signatures may not even come in, right? I mostly had volunteers, or I only really had volunteers.
Wow.
But if you had a full-time job, which I did, and
Mhm.
everyone else around me had a full-time job, which they did, then you have to have paid petitioners who are able to go around every second of every day for hours to big crowds across the district to get on, like to get those signatures, which ultimately got kicked off the ballot anyway. And that has to change. We need to lower the signature requirement.
Mhm.
I have been told by some people that 25, like by 25 is too small. 250 might be more understandable, but 500 is like a good place to be. I would rather be at anything that's less than like 1,000 because it was so hard to get that. And so I'm leaning in between somewhere between 250 if we have to have signature requirements to anything lower. But the maximum I'm willing to do at this point is 500 because it's so hard to get a stranger to write in their name to something, because the other thing is people think that you're going to start sending them mail and
Mhm.
you're not supposed to.
Right.
So that's what the election reform. I want to allow people to want to participate in politics so that their vote does feel like it counts, and implementing like the things that Fair Vote Illinois does and Election Reform Illinois does are all things to take out that corruption, but also put faith back into the system that we have. We will have to change the system in the long run, but I want people to feel more empowered to participate than they do currently.
Well, again, look, for those again who listen to the show, I talk about how corrupt Illinois is. I know it seems like a dauntless task, but there is a way to stand up against it. Now, you talk about election reform, and you definitely talked about the farming issue. But in regards for at least the election reform and what happened to you in regards to getting on the ballot, I mean, there's one thing I've always encouraged, and that is collaborating and building coalitions. So has there been any kind of, would you consider any kind of collaboration or working together with other independents, be it Greens in other districts or Libertarian Party or other independent candidates, in order to maybe build a coalition so that the next time, there's a midterm election cycle or a presidential election cycle, you guys will be ready to at least face off against the onslaught that is from the Illinois Democratic machine. And to be clear here, folks, the machine is starting to fail, but it still has some fight left in it. I want to ask, would you be open for a coalition? Because I think that's what people want to see now, and that is no more of this partisan or no more of this political identity or political party, like one group just states it was one group. Would you be open for working together with other independents, third parties, so that Illinois can so at least we can change things in this state?
Yes, 100%. And I'm already doing that.
Oh, okay.
Uh, yeah, I'm already doing that. Workers Strike Back is a really great organization. They had a rally this past Tuesday to reject a DNC, which I attended, and I'm so happy that I did, because there are several different kinds of people, different groups who are also feeling the burden of what I'm feeling and have the passion to do this reform. However, they don't want to run candidates because that's just one political tool and they do other tools. I am building coalitions with people not only in Chicago so they can come downstate and help table and canvas, but I'm also building what is it? So the PSL, the Party for Socialism and Liberation in my community, we're connected. I'm connected with the Libertarians in my community as well, and with the Republican women, county women in my community who are actively looking for people who are more in line, I guess, with some of their particular values and goals right now, which is the Second Amendment right is important to them. And so, yes, I am currently doing that. I want to continue doing that. If you're interested in running for elected office, if you're interested in being an official and running policy and doing that, then feel free to come towards me and let us know, because we're building up that movement that Bernie Sanders could have done, where we're going to have to bring in the left unity thing. Yes, whether you're communist, whether you're socialist, whether you are a reform capitalist, because we all want clean water, we're going to work together. And I have no doubt that in 2028, a third party will be in presidency.
All right. Now, again, for everyone just tuning in right now, just want to be clear, because good friend of the show, Gray Walker, joined Third Party, who is a supporter of independence and third parties like myself. Is she running for Congress or state legislature? She's running for Congress, So United States Congress, Illinois 13th Congressional District, my friends. So I want to just go over a couple more of your policies, because then I want to get your thoughts on the DNC convention, because surprisingly, when Hardlands Media was there, a lot of people that we knew were there, including you, because we ran into each other a few times. And I know you even ran into the guys of Revolutionary Blackout Network. That was a lot of fun. So let's go over these last two policies and we'll just combine them together. Well, not last two, because you got a couple more policies, but student loan forgiveness and Medicare for all, which, hey, I remember when Bernie Sanders used to run on that. Let's hear your policy on that. You have them on your campaign website. Are you for it or against it?
I'm 100% for student loan forgiveness. In fact, I also believe in not fiscal austerity, but of us being mindful of the debt that we have. And student loan forgiveness will help every single person in my district and every single person they're connected with. Because whether you currently go to college or you have college debt, you have a friend, you have a family member. Some of us are even paying our family members' debts right now, and so it will be a relief to every person across the board in our society, which is why I want student loan forgiveness. Okay. There's a whole story about someone in my family, not in my family, but in my community, that was one of my colleagues, who is a mother of 3 kids. And she is the blue collar worker. She is a BSW, which is a building service worker. So not a janitor, but kind of. And she's been working her whole life. Her and her husband both work, and they're putting their children, and they have thousands of dollars worth of debt, where their monthly payment just for the parents, so that their kids don't have to do a lot, is already $400 each parent. Wow. That makes absolutely no sense. And that's in my community. This is in central Illinois. And so, yes, student loan forgiveness is one of the first things I want to get done in the first 100 days. I would argue the first 30 to 60 days, but if we needed to, the first 100 days, we wipe that out completely for publicly held. And then for privately held debt, I know that the Debt Collective has ways to make that happen, but I haven't looked as much into the privately held debt. But I do think that we need to look at for-profit colleges that were predatory and relieve that debt as well.
Okay. All right. And then regards towards Medicare for all, I mean, let's face it, the one of the leading causes of homelessness is medical bankruptcy, medical debt. And I think we all know all the horror stories. So I want to hear your policy on that, because it's not on Kamala's campaign website. So it's kind of refreshing speaking to somebody who has a platform. The Democratic nominee still doesn't have anything. I just refreshed her page just a little while ago during this interview just to see if anything changed, and nothing has fundamentally changed. So let's hear your policy on Medicare for all.
Medicare for all, universal health care. I am whatever version of that gets every single American, every single person who lives in this state, who lives across our nation, and who lives in our territories, because Puerto Rico counts too, and Washington, D.C. We all deserve to get healthcare fully covered without having to, I wouldn't say even having to go into debt. You are currently no longer paying for these things because we've already paid for it, and we've already invested time and time and time again. This will include dental insurance and dental coverage, preventative and post. So if you have those cavities, don't worry, you can get them cleaned out. If you have to get those root canals, congratulations. Now you can go under anesthesia to get all of those done within a day. In my community, we're still, even though there's college campuses, we're very service sector jobs. Several thousand people have part-time jobs, and as a result, they don't have consistent healthcare, and they definitely don't have consistent dental care. So this is also part of why, whatever you want to call it, but I'm calling it Medicare for all in Illinois, universal healthcare. We have to get that, but it also will actively include dental.
Okay. Well, again, I just want to just stay down there. At least you have policies, and we're hearing about your campaign. And obviously, you're a write-in. I would prefer it if you actually were on the ballot, but this is Illinois. So, the next time, get ready to do left hook, right hook. And look, I want all third parties and independents to be on the ballot. And it goes not only for Illinois, but across the country. But then again, what I want and what's going to happen, two different things altogether. So I think as a final question for this, I want to get your thoughts and comments of the DNC convention. Right now, corporate media is presenting it as this great euphoria, and everyone should fall in line behind Kamala. I want to get your perspective. 4 days at the DNC convention. I know we saw you on the Monday rally. I saw you at Nick Cruz, Dr. Jill Stein, and Kasama Sawant's event on Tuesday, and I saw you on the final day at the DNC convention. We were also doing some work Wednesday. I don't think I ran into you or a few other people, but anyways, I want to get your thoughts on it. What are your takeaways from the DNC convention? Was this moment of great peace and unity, and do the Democrats have a coalition? So I want to give your final thoughts on that.
When I came home last night from the last day of the Disrupt DNC march, I came home at like 9, 10 o'clock, very tired from walking. I went upstairs to my mom, who is a diehard vote blue no matter who, and she was talking about how Kamala even talked about Gaza, and she talked about some of the things that I know. But my mom was like, she's done it. She even placated towards the people who are currently upset. I disagreed 100%, but I listened to her. This morning, I reflected on the police presence that was there, and it had overwhelmed me. And I'm from Chicago. I've been around police my whole freaking life. But the sheer amount of police officers that were present and followed us and walked with us this morning, I almost want to say I feel bad, but I don't, for my mom mostly. I don't think Kamala's going to win. The DNC, I'm so sorry. I think she'll win the popular vote, but not the electoral. Only and not even only. It just solidified that, one, I'm right. And two, the people who are going to vote for her are going to vote for her, but they're drastically outnumbered.
Right. All right. I have to agree with that, because on Monday, there was at least maybe 4,000 people, and that was more that was inside the DNC convention on the first day. On Thursday, the final day, I think it'd be argued there was like maybe 8,000 people, maybe a little bit more, give or take. And again, those are key voters that are needed. And we've all saw the imagery and the lack of, I guess, concern by the vote blue no matter who liberals. We could play all the videos, and I'll be talking about this later on the show, of them dismissing progressives and independents. And I did not see a single Democrat lawmaker, say for maybe Ilhan Omar, actually walk out of the DNC and actually speak before the press. But I didn't see any politicians speaking to protesters. I didn't see them there at Union Park. I didn't see them there on any day talking to voters. And yes, I would say it's 50-50. It all depends on who could pull out voter enthusiasm. For all we know, we could see a click, copy, repeat of 2016. But I'm in full agreement. Like, there was a lot of police presence, and we'll be talking later on the show about the overall cost of the DNC convention. That's going to be a lot of fun. That's a lot of money. So I guess as a final question to it is, was there anything else that you learned from seeing how the Democrats operate? What were your thoughts of the people attending? And since you're saying that, hey, you think Kamala won't win, a lot of people are going to be blaming third parties and independents. What's your response to them?
Yeah, I do not feel bad at all if Kamala doesn't win, if the Democrats have a bad season, because I knew that we would always get the flack for it, for just wanting something different. My final thoughts is, I would really like it, since I am particularly, and the Greens in Illinois are actively pushing for a coalition that can be built, that will run candidates, that will be able to get people on the ballot, so it's easier for people to just write it in. If Uncommitted joins us, I would argue that their vote will have a bigger impact, because the DNC, it's been clear that reaction that they don't want to change, which is what I understood when I decided to run as a Green, because if you don't want to change, why am I going to force you into it and try to wrangle my way to make that happen? But I'm more surprised this morning, but the police presence in itself really convinced me that the government of Chicago has allowed, or like the federal government or the DNC has pushed it so that the city of Chicago makes the people feel more like, I felt more unsafe than safe. And so I think they were like, we want to make sure that it's congruent, and I think that they overplayed their hand. I think that's what it is. I think that the DNC overplayed their hand, and it makes me laugh, but it was surprising to see that yesterday.
Now, I actually do have a comment from Roger Meadows. He actually tipped, I believe, oh my goodness, $12 on Rockfin. Thank you so much for this. First of all, he'd like to ask you this question here. The Democrat, you said that the Democrats they sign your petition, they'll come after you. That makes no sense. Illinois is one of 20 voters don't register under a party. Only politicians do so. So how will they know? And he'd also like to know: do you support lineage-based reparations?
Lineage-based reparations. I'll say yes because I overall support reparations. That's actually something that's big in my community too, which the current incumbent does not support reparations, and I do. I think for American descendants of slaves, I 100%. I also think it's going to be reparations, and so you're going to need one. So with reparations, it's reparations, and it may be cash payments if that's something people want. It may be a house, but it has to be multiple things because it is generational. I will also say that as a Nigerian American, while I do have impact, like I feel the impacts of racism and the legacy of slavery, I fully understand that I may not, like I probably won't and don't need to get particular reparations or reparations at all. And so that's something that I want to bring to Congress, where we have to focus it down on who needs to, like who gets and who, and we don't need to fight about who doesn't. Then the question was about for the write-in. So I understand. I don't know if Rogers is from Chicago or like
he's from New York. He's from New York.
Okay, so so in Illinois we have two sets of primaries. We have the Republican primary and the Democratic primary. That doesn't mean that you're registering as a Republican or a Democrat. That's just how, at least in my district, that's how they hand out the primary stuff. And then in the general election, we just have one long ballot. So you can vote green, you can vote blue, you can vote red, you can do whatever. As a result, if you have a tendency to vote in the Democratic primaries, they can and they will get a list of people who ended up voting in the primaries and then cross-list it to the people who ended up signing for you. It seems wild, but that is what happens in Illinois.
Okay. So, and then the final thing too, I would recommend, please check out ballot initiatives, because that's what Roger Meadows has talked about, because Illinois is a ballot initiative state, and that is another way in which we can get things done. So ballot initiatives. So again, Chibu, thank you so much for joining us here on this early this morning. Obviously, there's a lot more to take away from the DNC convention. We'll be talking about that later on in the show. But all in all, is there any kind of events that are happening that you want to promote before we end this interview?
Yes, actually, for the next 7 weeks, each weekend will be around the college campuses. So Urbana-Champaign, Springfield, down to Edwardsville, so SIUE. We will not forget you all, even the community colleges. Please feel free to stop by and to see us. We'll be tabling and handing out information at a lot of your quad days and the next upcoming major events for the college students. So we see you, we hear you, and I'm here for it.
All right, fantastic. I want to thank you so much for your time, everyone. We're going to continue on with the rest of the main shows. We're going to take a short second break. Chibu, thank you so much. It was great seeing you out there. Be safe and all the best to you. And I do hope that you do win your write-in campaign. It would be a story of some good news for independents and third parties. So all the best to you in your campaign for the Illinois 13th Congressional District.
Thank you.
All right.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?
Fresh off the masses, the brand new cancerous growth, who has come here to vie for your vote. Come here to cry at the camps and to mourn at the shore for the bodies that float by the wreck of an immigrant boat. Then it's back to their luxury home, couple security booths and a moat. Couple cigars, little escargot, little booze and a soak. Just breathe in the steam and the smoke. Pink salt, lavender, candles are low. Shit, when you do what you do, gotta lighten the load. And he got a life of his own that's a sight to behold. And it's a lot to control, to decipher the code, or to siphon the soul. The cost of a good night's sleep for the working elite is a bargain, no matter the toll. Worth any wager, and that comes straight from the mouth of the means to the goal that will swallow us whole. Ripe for the picking if you don't mind mold, and you know I don't. Maybe we're pleasantly prone, maybe we're taking a licking, compliantly ticking and ticking and ticking, but never explode. No, I don't deliver the prettiest image, but damn if it isn't an accurate vision of natural fission, of rage at the system and abject heartbreak, patiently waiting for any who will listen. That little blue bird who was watching your words is a federal carrier pigeon, a Langley first. It's a patient observer who hears what it wants and is trained for the worst. Oh, you got nothing to hide. They'll be the ones to decide that after they root through your purse, after they read all your text, after they raid your apartment, confiscate all of its contents, then conjure up evidence out of the air on a wing and a prayer and malicious intelligence nonsense. Any presumption of innocence long since gone, right along with your comforts and constants. Historically first they will come from the communists. So why in the fuck would I say I'm a communist? Well, it might be I love my community more than the monsters of opulence who are holding us hostage, who are vomiting promises. Might be I'm all done seeing our pensions and benefits harvested. Might be I'm all done watching the populace being disarmed in the guise of an armistice. Watching a woman collapse on the floor who will rise no more. She is wheeled out the door and you're next in line for the pharmacist. If you can get me to vote, it's a hard no confidence. But part of the charm of deception is politics wearing the mask of incompetence. It's all in the art of austerity, darling. It's all in the slide of the providence. Until home is as wide as your cubicle height and is only as deep as your coffin is. Maybe I'm miles away from impatience, aching to break off the head of the snake where the capital lust, reptile brain, and the margin of profit is. Like off with his. Like off with his.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days, and I still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe?